All right, jumping right into it, we're talking Bitcoin today.
Bitcoin, yeah.
And I know a lot of you are probably following this whole cryptocurrency world.
Right.
But today we're going deep,
Yeah,
like really trying to understand what makes Bitcoin tick.
for sure.
We're doing this deep dive with insights from Andreas Antonopoulos.
Oh, great choice.
Yeah, I mean,
Good to know.
he's one of the most respected voices in the space.
Absolutely, he's a legend.
And he's really good at cutting through the noise
Yeah.
and explaining things in a way that clicks.
Definitely, he's a fantastic educator.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to be in good hands today.
For sure, for sure.
And yeah, I mean, what was so fascinating about Bitcoin is that it really challenges like so many of the assumptions we have,
Yeah.
about money and trust.
Right.
Like a lot of people right now are thinking about it as an investment,
Uh-huh.
but it's really like a technological revolution.
Yeah.
That's going to have such a profound impact on pretty much everything.
Well, I'm ready to have my mind blown. So where do
Let-
we even begin?
So a great place to start is with the mystery
Okay.
surrounding its creator, Satoshi Nakamoto.
Satoshi Nakamoto.
In 2008, this anonymous person or group of people
Right.
published the Bitcoin white paper,
Yeah.
which basically laid out the blueprint for
Mhm.
this decentralized digital cash system.
Yeah.
And to this day, no one knows who Satoshi really is.
That's intriguing, but I have to say, like, the tech side of this can feel a little intimidating.
Yeah, I can understand that, but honestly, it's a lot simpler than you might think.
Okay.
I mean, at its core, Bitcoin is just software. You can download it, run it on your computer,
Mm-hmm.
and then when you have lots of computers running the software,
Yeah.
they connect to each other,
Right.
forming a network.
So it's like a giant network of computers all talking to each other.
Exactly. And here's the key part. It's a decentralized network,
Okay.
which means there's no central authority
Hmm.
controlling it.
Yeah.
There's no government, no bank.
You're right.
There's no single point of failure.
Okay.
And this is really like what makes Bitcoin fundamentally different
Yeah.
from traditional financial systems.
I'm starting to see why people get so excited about this.
Yeah.
But what does it actually mean for Bitcoin to be decentralized? Like, what are the implications of that?
Well, for one thing, it means that Bitcoin is censorship resistant.
Okay.
So no one can stop you from sending or receiving Bitcoin
Mm-hmm.
because there's no single entity that can block transactions.
Right.
This is a huge deal for people, especially living in countries with like oppressive regimes
Yeah.
or limited access to financial services.
So it's like a financial system that's truly open
Yeah.
and accessible to everyone.
That's the idea. Bitcoin doesn't discriminate
Wow.
based on, your location, your identity, your credit score.
Okay.
It's a permissionless system, so anyone can participate.
That's powerful.
Yeah.
But if there's no central authority, how do we know that Bitcoin is secure?
That's where the blockchain comes in.
Okay.
It's basically a public ledger that records every single
Yeah.
Bitcoin transaction.
Okay.
And because it's distributed across the entire network, it's virtually impossible to tamper with.
So it's like a giant unchangeable record book
Exactly.
that everyone can see.
Everyone can see it, and that transparency is actually what makes it so trustworthy.
Okay.
You can always verify that your transactions are valid
Uh-huh.
and that no one's double spending Bitcoin.
That's a pretty elegant solution.
Yeah.
So we've got this decentralized, secure system, but what makes Bitcoin valuable?
Yeah.
Is it just the fact that it's scarce?
Scarcity is definitely part of it.
Yeah.
Bitcoin has a fixed supply of 21 million coins.
Right.
Which means it can't be inflated like traditional currencies.
Okay.
But its value also comes from its utility
Mm-hmm.
as a medium of exchange.
So it's like digital gold,
That's a good analogy.
a finite resource that people use
Yeah.
to store and transfer value.
Yeah, but Bitcoin is also much more programmable than gold.
Okay.
And this is where things get really interesting
Yeah.
because it opens up a whole world of possibilities.
Okay, like what? What kind of possibilities?
Well, think about smart contracts. These are self-executing agreements
Uh-huh.
that are coded into the blockchain.
Okay.
So let's say you want to buy something online, but you're worried about getting scammed.
I've been there.
With a smart contract, you could put the funds in escrow,
Yeah.
and they would only be released to the seller once you received the goods
Okay.
and confirmed that you were satisfied.
So it's like having a trusted third party built into the system
Yeah.
but without actually needing a third party.
Exactly. And smart contracts can automate all sorts of complex transactions,
Right.
making them much more efficient, transparent, and secure.
Yeah.
And that's just scratching the surface of what's possible.
This is starting to feel like something much bigger than just a digital currency.
Right.
It's like a whole new way of thinking about trust and value.
That's exactly what Antonopoulos calls it, the Internet of Money.
The Internet of Money. I like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Bitcoin is really like the foundation for this decentralized global financial system
Okay.
that can connect people and value in ways that we've just never seen before.
Yeah, I'm starting to understand why you said this is a technological revolution. It's not just about money.
No.
It's about changing the very fabric of how we interact and do business with each other.
Absolutely.
This is okay. So before we get too far ahead of ourselves,
Sure.
let's break down some of these key concepts in more detail.
Okay.
You mentioned that Bitcoin has a fixed supply.
Right.
How does that actually work?
It all comes down to something called the halving event.
The halving event. Okay.
So every 4 years,
Yeah.
the reward that Bitcoin miners receive for securing the network is cut in half.
Miners. That sounds like we're about to go spelunking for digital gold.
Think of them more like the accountants of the Bitcoin network.
Yeah, okay.
They're the ones who use their computing power
Uh-huh.
to verify transactions and add them to the blockchain.
Right.
And in return for that, they get rewarded with newly created Bitcoin.
So they're basically the ones keeping the system running smoothly.
Exactly.
Okay.
And the halving event is this really clever way to control the rate
Right.
at which new Bitcoin is created.
Uh-huh.
So it started at 50 Bitcoin per block.
Okay.
Then it went down to 25, then 12.5, and so on.
So it's like a built-in mechanism to ensure that Bitcoin becomes more scarce over time?
Precisely.
Okay.
And because the supply is limited, it theoretically becomes more valuable as demand increases.
Right. Which is why some people see Bitcoin as a hedge against inflation.
Exactly.
That makes sense. But I've also heard a lot about the risks associated with Bitcoin,
Sure.
especially with all the hacks and scams
Well,
that have happened over the years.
Antonopoulos actually makes a crucial distinction here.
Okay.
He says that Bitcoin itself has never been hacked. The vulnerabilities lie in like the centralized exchanges and platforms that people use to buy, sell, and store their Bitcoin.
So it's not the technology itself that's flawed.
No.
It's how people are using it.
Exactly. When we try to impose traditional financial models
Oh.
onto a decentralized system,
Yeah.
we end up introducing weaknesses.
Got it.
So Antonopoulos advocates for something called self-custody,
Okay.
which means holding your own private keys
Right.
and taking responsibility for your own Bitcoin.
So it's like having a bank account where you're the only one with the keys.
That's a good way to think about it.
Yeah.
It gives you more control and security,
Uh-huh.
but it also comes with more responsibility.
Yeah. No, that sounds like a pretty big responsibility.
It is.
It feels like there's a lot to learn here, but
Mhm.
I'm definitely starting to grasp the power and potential of this technology.
And that's just the beginning.
All right. Well, consider me officially down the Bitcoin rabbit hole.
Great. Let's keep digging.
Let's keep digging.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting stuff.
Totally. I feel like we've just scratched the surface here.
Yeah, for sure.
So where do we go from here? What other, like, mind-bending Bitcoin concepts are out there?
Well, let's talk about like the bigger picture for a second.
Okay.
You mentioned that, Bitcoin is still in its early stages.
Right.
Antonopoulos compares it to the internet in the early 90s.
Oh, wow.
Remember dial-up, AOL chat rooms?
Vaguely. Thankfully, I was more of a Nintendo kid back then, but I see what you're getting at.
Yeah, it was clunky,
Yeah,
confusing for a lot of people.
for sure.
And back then, few people could have predicted how the internet would transform the world.
Right.
And we're kind of at a similar stage with Bitcoin right now.
Okay.
The user experience can be a bit rough around the edges.
Yeah.
The learning curve is steep, but that's changing rapidly.
So just like the internet went from those screeching dial-up modems
Yeah,
to lightning-fast connections and smartphones in everyone's pockets,
right.
Bitcoin will become more
Yeah,
accessible and user-friendly over time.
exactly. Developers are constantly working on this stuff,
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
making it easier for everyday people to buy and sell and use Bitcoin.
That makes sense. But even if it becomes super easy to use,
Yeah,
there's still those concerns about volatility.
right.
The price of Bitcoin swings so wildly.
Yeah,
It makes some people hesitant to actually use it as, well, money.
that's a fair point. It's definitely volatile,
Yeah.
especially in the short term.
Right.
But It's important to remember this is a nascent technology. It's still finding its footing in the global economy.
Right.
So as adoption grows and the market matures, we can expect to see,
Okay.
less volatility.
So it's like the Wild West out there right now, but eventually things
Yeah.
will settle down.
Yeah, that's one way to look at it.
Okay.
But it's also important to remember that volatility can cut both ways.
Right.
It can be risky, but it also presents opportunities for people who understand the market.
For sure. Yeah, that's the investor mindset. But Antonopoulos seems to be more interested in like the long-term potential of Bitcoin
Absolutely.
beyond just its price fluctuations.
Yeah, he believes that Bitcoin has the power to revolutionize the developing world,
Mm.
providing financial services to people who have been excluded from traditional systems.
Okay.
Imagine being able to send money to your family
Yeah.
in another country without paying exorbitant fees or dealing with all these bureaucratic hurdles.
That's a game changer,
Yeah.
especially for people who rely on remittances
Right.
to support their loved ones.
Exactly. And Bitcoin can also facilitate microloans and crowdfunding,
Hmm.
empowering entrepreneurs and small businesses in emerging markets.
Okay.
It's about leveling the playing field
Right.
and giving everyone access to these tools of financial empowerment.
It sounds like Bitcoin could leapfrog traditional banking infrastructure in a lot of parts of the world,
Yeah,
much like mobile phones bypassed landlines in developing countries.
that's a great analogy. And it's not just about money transfers. It also enables things like
Yeah.
property ownership through tokenization,
Okay.
which opens up all these possibilities for people who haven't had access to,
I'm glad.
traditional forms of asset ownership.
I'm starting to see the ripple effects here. This is like financial inclusion on a global scale.
Absolutely.
A whole new paradigm for how we think about wealth and opportunity.
And this is just the tip of the iceberg.
Wow.
Antonopoulos even suggests that children born today might never have a traditional bank account.
Hmm.
They'll grow up in a world where financial services are entirely app-based
Right.
and decentralized.
That's a bold prediction.
It is.
But I can kind of see how it's possible. I mean, technology's changing so fast,
Yeah,
and younger generations are already embracing these digital-first solutions.
absolutely. And this transformation extends far beyond finance.
Okay.
Antonopoulos argues that Bitcoin will disrupt a wide range of industries:
Like what?
law, economics, even governance.
Governance. Now, that's a thought-provoking statement. How
Yeah.
on earth could Bitcoin impact something as complex as governance?
Well, for starters, think about transparency.
Okay.
Blockchain technology enables this level of transparency
Yeah.
that we've just never seen before.
Right.
So imagine a world where all government spending is recorded on a public blockchain.
Oh.
Every transaction is auditable and accountable.
That would be a game changer in terms of fighting corruption
Yeah.
and holding those in power accountable.
Exactly. And this idea of radical transparency extends to areas like voting and elections.
Wow.
Imagine a secure, verifiable system where every vote is recorded on a blockchain,
Uh-huh.
eliminating the possibility of fraud or manipulation.
It sounds like science fiction, but I can see how blockchain technology could fundamentally change how we govern ourselves.
Yeah.
What about the impact on law? How would Bitcoin reshape the legal landscape?
Think about smart contracts again.
Yeah.
We talked about how they can automate financial transactions.
But they can also be used to create, self-executing legal agreements.
Oh, good.
So imagine a world where contracts are coded onto a blockchain
Uh-huh.
and automatically enforced,
Right.
cutting out the need for expensive lawyers and lengthy court battles.
So we're talking about a more efficient, transparent, and accessible legal system.
Exactly.
That would be a huge win for everyone, except maybe the lawyers.
Maybe. Antonopoulos also talks about this concept of computational economics.
Computational economics.
Okay, which uses blockchain technology to analyze economic activity in real time.
All right, break that down for me. That sounds pretty complex.
Basically, it's about using the power of blockchain technology
Yeah.
to track and analyze economic data in a way that was never possible before.
Okay.
Every transaction on the Bitcoin blockchain is recorded and timestamped.
Right.
That creates this treasure trove of information
Uh-huh.
about how value is flowing through the economy.
So instead of relying on lagging indicators and estimates, we could have real-time insights into economic activity.
Exactly.
This is blowing my mind. We're talking about reshaping entire systems here.
It is a lot to take in,
Yeah.
but that's the beauty of it, you know?
Yeah.
Bitcoin is a catalyst for rethinking so many aspects of our world. It's about challenging assumptions, questioning the status quo,
Right.
and embracing the possibilities of a decentralized future.
Antonopoulos really emphasizes that we're at a crossroads here.
Yeah.
We can either cling to the old ways of doing things,
Yeah.
or we can embrace this new technology and shape the future we want to see.
He uses this brilliant analogy
Okay.
to illustrate this point.
Yeah.
He compares Bitcoin to leafcutter ants.
Leafcutter ants.
Okay. Individually, these ants are, simple creatures,
Yeah.
but collectively they form this complex superorganism
Right.
capable of incredible feats.
Okay. I'm intrigued. How do ants relate to Bitcoin?
Well, the individual nodes in the Bitcoin network
Yeah.
might seem simple on their own, but together they create this robust, resilient system that's greater than the sum of its parts.
So it's the decentralized nature of Bitcoin.
Yes,
It's the collective intelligence of the network
exactly.
that makes it so powerful. I'm starting to get it.
Exactly. And this is just the beginning.
Wow.
As more people connect to the network, as more developers build on this technology,
Yeah.
the possibilities become almost limitless. It's like we're at the dawn of a new era.
Right.
And the choices we make now will shape the world for generations to come.
It feels like we've gone from talking about digital currency to discussing the future of humanity.
That's the thing about Bitcoin.
Yeah.
It's not just about technology or finance.
Right.
It's about reimagining how we organize ourselves as a society.
Okay.
It's about empowering individuals, promoting transparency, and building systems that are fairer, more efficient, and more resilient.
I'm starting to understand why Antonopoulos is so passionate about this.
Yeah.
It's not just about code and algorithms.
No.
It's about creating a better world. But let's be realistic here. This is all still very much in its early stages. Are we getting ahead of ourselves?
He acknowledges the challenges.
Okay.
He knows that widespread adoption won't happen overnight,
Right.
but he believes that the potential of this technology is too great to ignore.
Yeah.
He urges us to be patient, to keep learning, and to keep building.
Right.
He reminds us that every great technological revolution
Yeah.
has faced resistance and skepticism,
Right.
but the ones that truly transform the world are the ones that people believe in and fight for.
So it's not just about understanding the technology. It's
Yeah.
about being part of the movement.
Yeah.
About advocating for the change we want to see.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that this isn't just about, making money or investing in the next big thing. It's about creating a future where technology empowers people,
Right.
promotes freedom,
Yeah.
and creates a more equitable world.
Okay, I'm fired up now, but where do we even begin?
That's a great question.
Like, how can everyday people like us contribute to this movement? What can we do to be a part of this change?
That's a great question, and that's exactly what we'll dive into
Okay.
in the next part of our deep dive.
All right, so we've talked about a lot.
A lot, yeah.
From like the basics of Bitcoin to the mind-blowing potential of the internet of money.
Right.
And it's clear that this technology is a game changer,
For sure.
but it can also feel kind of overwhelming.
Yeah.
Like drinking from a fire hose of information.
It's a lot.
Yeah, so let's bring it back down to earth for a minute.
Okay.
For someone listening to this thinking like, okay, I'm intrigued, but what can I actually do about this? Where do we even begin?
That's a great question, and it's something that Antonopoulos addresses directly.
Okay.
He really emphasizes that this isn't a spectator sport. This is a movement that needs active participants.
Right.
People who are willing to roll up their sleeves and get involved.
So it's not enough to just understand the concepts.
Right.
We need to take action.
You got to take action.
But what kind of action can we take?
Well, the first step is education.
Okay.
Keep learning, keep exploring. There are so many resources available online.
Right.
Articles, videos, podcasts, online courses.
Yeah, there's no shortage of information out there.
No shortage. And don't be afraid to,
Yeah.
dive deep into the technical details,
Okay.
but also focus on the bigger picture,
Right.
the philosophical, social, economic implications.
It's about becoming informed citizens.
Exactly.
Not just tech-savvy investors.
Yeah, and the more people who understand Bitcoin,
Uh-huh.
the more likely it is to succeed.
Right.
So, talk to your friends and family about it.
Yeah.
Share what you're learning. Help demystify this technology.
Spread the Bitcoin gospel, one conversation at a time.
Exactly.
I like it.
But beyond education, what else can we do?
Yeah, what else?
Start using Bitcoin,
Okay.
even if it's just a small amount.
Right.
Get some, experiment with it. Send it to a friend. Buy something online.
Okay.
The more people who use Bitcoin, the more demand it creates.
Right.
The more valuable it becomes.
Exactly.
The faster the network grows. It's a self-reinforcing cycle.
So it's like putting your money where your mouth is, literally.
Exactly.
But for someone who's new to this, the whole process of buying and storing Bitcoin can seem a little intimidating.
Sure.
Any tips for navigating that?
There's so many user-friendly wallets and exchanges available now.
Okay.
Start with a small amount that you're comfortable experimenting with.
Right.
And remember what we talked about earlier? Self-custody.
Right. Your keys, your Bitcoin.
Exactly.
That's a crucial point.
Learn how to store your own Bitcoin securely.
Okay. But beyond using Bitcoin ourselves, are there other ways to support this movement?
Absolutely. Support businesses that accept Bitcoin.
Okay.
Donate to organizations that are working to promote Bitcoin adoption and education.
Right.
Get involved in online communities and forums.
Yeah, there's a pretty vibrant community out there.
There's a huge community of Bitcoiners out there who are always willing to help newcomers.
That's cool. It's like any social movement.
Yeah.
The more people who participate, the stronger it becomes.
Exactly.
But let's be honest, there's also a lot of hype and speculation in this space.
Oh, yeah.
How do we separate the signal from the noise? How do we avoid getting caught up in the frenzy of getting rich quick and stay focused on the long-term vision?
That's where critical thinking comes in.
Okay.
Don't believe everything you read or hear. Question assumptions. Do your own research. And remember, this is a marathon, not a sprint.
Okay.
Focus on understanding the fundamentals, the underlying value proposition of this technology.
So it's about being thoughtful and discerning.
Yeah.
Not just blindly following the crowd.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to challenge the status quo.
Okay.
Antonopoulos reminds us that throughout history,
Yeah.
the greatest innovators and visionaries were often met with resistance and ridicule. The people who dared to, challenge the existing power structures,
Yeah.
the ones who dreamed of a different future, were often labeled as heretics or fools.
It's like the classic story of the inventor who's told their idea will never work.
Exactly.
Only to prove everyone wrong and change the world.
Exactly. So don't be afraid to be a fool. Don't be afraid to dream big. Don't be afraid to imagine a world where technology empowers individuals.
Right.
Where we have more control over our own data and our own finances.
Yeah.
Where systems are more transparent and accountable.
It's about reclaiming our power, right?
Yeah.
Taking ownership of our digital lives.
For sure.
And shaping the future we want to see.
Absolutely.
That's a powerful message, but it can also feel like a daunting task.
Yeah.
Especially when we're up against powerful institutions and entrenched interests. How do we stay motivated and inspired in the face of such challenges?
Remember that you're not alone in this.
Okay.
There's a growing global community of people who believe in the power of this technology to create a better world. So connect with them. Learn from them. Support each other.
Okay.
And never underestimate the power of collective action.
Right.
As Margaret Mead famously said, never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has.
That's a powerful reminder that change is possible.
It is.
Even in the face of seemingly insurmountable obstacles.
For sure.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with this final thought.
Okay.
What if the true revolution isn't Bitcoin itself, but the shift in thinking that it represents?
Okay.
What if this technology is a catalyst for a much broader transformation, a move towards decentralization, transparency, and trust in networks, not just in finance, but in all aspects of our lives?
What if this is just the beginning
Yeah.
of a much larger story?
Right.
A story that you, dear listener, have the power to help write.
So keep exploring, keep learning, keep questioning.
Absolutely.
And most importantly, keep believing in the power of possibility. The future is waiting to be shaped.
Couldn't have said it better myself.